Welcome back. So we have a first keynote that's on NFT about landscape, business model, future and hold, investor perspective. The keynote speaker, T.Y. Murphy, is the founder, Domos Art Due Diligence. He is into Domos Art Due Diligence and NFT Solutions based in Monaco. And he offers NFT solutions for family offices, ultra high net worth individuals. He offers due diligence art advisor. He is a publisher of Family Magazine, Art and Museum Magazine, and speaker, lecturer, founder NFT Market Watch News, advising family offices across the world. Over to you, TY. Go ahead, make a presentation.
Okay, can you see me, guys?
I could see your photograph. I mean, I'm not able to see you. Why don't you put the video on?
All right. Video access. Can you see me? Oh, it's a bit bright. Is that okay?
Yeah, great. I could see you. I could see you.
Okay, so I'll start now if it's okay. Let me just get my microphone in place.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ty Murphy. I'm a due diligence art specialist and advisor to ultra high net worth individual clients and family offices. I would suggest you take a second to Google what is a family office if you've never heard of one. Not many people have. In short, this is a wealthy family's office of employees who invest that family's wealth. Most family offices have over 100 million AUM. That's assets under management. The great area for NFTs to look at. I speak around the world on issues such as investing in art, due diligence in art transactions, and a number of family office related issues. I also lecture at museums on due diligence and fake art. I also publish Family Office Magazine and Art and Museum Magazine. You can look at this at familyofficemag.com. And while my work primarily involves due diligence in fine art transactions, NFTs are now considered to be a new asset class that the wealthy family offices and ultra high net worth individuals are warming to. And therefore, I'm now also advising my clients on portfolio diversification to include NFTs as well as other crypto products. Therefore, it's become necessary to conduct due diligence on NFTs. So I'll expand on that just a little bit. Our own due diligence model is referred to as the PAM test. This basically translates to investigating the people, the art, and the money to a transaction. It involves obtaining as much information as possible about the parties to any transaction, the artwork, and of course the transaction itself. That's KYC and AML included. We'll look at that, a little bit of that later on. But I have a background as a counter surveillance specialist, working for blue chip companies and missile manufacturers. So it gives me or us the edge when conducting deep level due diligence or investigations of high end artworks or other assets, now including NFTs, of course. And the hype around NFTs is attracting what some are calling crypto scammers. But as we have dubbed them, these individuals, NFT pirates. And there's going to be a lot of these types coming out of the woodwork. We've had numerous reports recently on Twitter that non-fungible tokens, NFTs, have been stolen by hackers and others and resold on the very same platforms. No due diligence, of course. Some artists have also been the victim of NFT pirates when their publicly available works are being turned into NFTs and sold without their permission. Some are even using bots to automatically turn tweets containing artwork into NFTs and tagging tokenized tweets account on Twitter. So NFTs are big business, and it's inevitable that the undesirable elements will crawl out of the woodwork and will ultimately lead to all types of scams and the creation and theft of NFTs. As we know, there has been some extraordinary developments recently, and this is for the newbies. So I'm not going to delve into this a lot. So we've got, of course, Mike Winkelmann, known as Beeple, and he sold an NFT at auction with Christie's house for a record of 69.3 million. Of course, we've got the musician Grimes, who raised 6 million by selling several pieces of digital artwork at auction through the NFT marketplace Nifty. Then we have the band's Kings of Leon just released a full album as an NFT. And for one of the more interesting is NBA Top Shots. The NBA teamed up with Dapper Labs to create NFTs of plays from NBA games. To date, Dapper Labs has sold more than 278 million in moments, according to the crypto tracker Crypto Slam. While these developments are more driving the buzz, there are many pitfalls that NFT market participants are not familiar with. Which, of course, there's legal restrictions relating to copyrighted work, which can lead to potential infringement liability. As an ardent student of the law, I can say unreservedly that licensing intellectual property rights is a complicated business and is, more often than not, the subject of detailed negotiations by lawyers and experts alike. Another issue for NFT investors, these would be wealthy investors now who are diversifying their portfolio to invest in NFTs. They find out that they only receive the token and the right to use copyrighted art associated with the NFT is for personal use only. For many not in the know, the original creator is the copyright owner who retains the exclusive rights to copy, distribute, modify, publicly perform, and publicly display the art. Where does that leave the buyer? And this brings up another interesting question about NFTs. If an NFT of an artwork by Monet is created that is owned by a museum, who owns the rights? The owner of the Monet or the owner of the NFT of that Monet? It's an interesting question. The Picasso administration, the Pablo Picasso family, are renowned for chasing down copyright infringers of images of Picasso works which are owned exclusively by the Picasso family, unless under license, of course. If you buy a Picasso NFT, you will no doubt be in legal hot water with the Picasso estate. So I'm just highlighting some issues for you to get a feel of where we see things are going. And the NFT space for investors and creators is a foreign country insofar as rights and ownership of the original creators are concerned. There is no real precedent or legal test cases as of yet that can be relied upon. It is a new and exciting world, this NFT world of ours, and it's the latest gold rush, and of course it's heading for many legal confrontations in the coming months and years ahead. So one thing is clear. As NFT investors and creators, you need to conduct some due diligence. There are, of course, simple issues that can be addressed yourself, such as researching the artist, contact them in advance of any investment or transaction or purchase of an NFT. You can take steps to ensure that they are really the creators of the work and it has good and clear title. If not, check to ascertain if the creator has given consent to the creation of the NFT and the related use of the artist's intellectual property and copyright, including any future resale rights of the NFT. Very important point. Investors in NFTs need to check whether the NFT and related contract and underlying blockchain technology also allow resale, and if so, what are the terms? We could start with this. According to a report by the Geneva-based Fine Art Experts Institute, 50% of real art circulating in the market is being forged or misattributed. Will NFTs now follow this pattern? At Domos.uk, we have our own process for due diligence. We call it the PAM test. The PAM test means to investigate the people, the art, and the money. It's also a legal test, much like the but-for test in law. Ask a lawyer. That's the best explanation. Keeping it short. So our process on an art transaction, we would strongly advise you to apply the ABC of due diligence. Number 1, assume nothing. Number 2, believe no one. Number 3, check everything. No trust. The reason the PAM test was created by me is that I believe the primary methods used by most art professionals to authenticate and attribute art is not sufficient in today's art world, and nor is it in the NFT world. In addition, the art world needs a legal framework, as does the NFT market. It's the Wild West out there. It's without doubt that the same applies to non-fungible token art and other crypto products. Our PAM risk-based approach helps us to determine many issues that do arise when clients are buying or investing in all types of art, real and NFT. And it goes far beyond the standard due diligence that a person would normally do, or an accountant or a lawyer or so on and so forth. In addition to the comprehensive PAM test checklist, we also use traditional investigative techniques such as surveillance, tracking, background checks, and so on. I mean, that's related to real art. We haven't really delved into that with NFTs yet, but I would suggest the same would apply to NFTs if it's big money. Suffice to say, conducting due diligence is a must when investing in physical art or NFT art. Doing it via the PAM test will give you a lot more information, enabling you, the buyer, investor, creator, to make the right decision. For anyone buying or selling high-end art or NFT art, standard KYC, know your client, know your customer, depending on where you are, details are required, including the standard stuff: name, occupation, address, date of birth, nationality. And this is all, you have to obtain all accompanying identification documents so that the artist or the buyer or seller can be verified. So, know who you're dealing with. The same relates to a company, to a trust or third-party seller. I mean, there's an interesting company out there called ID Please, interesting platform. And that's a permission-based trusted digital identity that implements AI multi-factor authentication and unforgettable blockchain storage for traceability. Seems like a good option, keeping it all on the blockchain. This means an artist, buyer, or seller of art or NFT art can be identified immediately after the first transaction, after they're registered. There are literally thousands of brokers, middlemen, and agents out there selling real art for anonymous buyer and sellers. Now, this also now applies to NFTs again. Many operate through multiple private investment companies or offshore structures whose ownership, control, or beneficial structure is not transparent. So it depends on what side of the fence you are on this one, but if you're buying, you want to know who you're dealing with. Again, you must know who you're dealing with, and it's really not worth running the risk without conducting due diligence. Let's say the NFT art sector will take some time to reach maturity. That's a given. But there are so many other digital certificate applications that will use the technology, such as trademarks, copyright, patents, passports, driving license, land certificates, and so on, that will utilize the technology in the future. If we look at anti-money laundering, which will apply to NFTs and crypto sooner or later, sooner rather than later, some say, depends on. So the US Treasury Department issued a warning to art businesses last year to keep track of buyers' identities. The advisory came after a congressional report found that two sanctioned Russian oligarchs used art to launder money in the US. According to the advisory, the lack of transparency and the high degree of confidentiality are among the characteristics that make the art market for high-value artworks prone to such activity. The NFT market is sure to follow. It has to. I mean, anywhere where there's taxes to be paid, they're going to be on it. The US House of Representatives passed the Counter Act, an anti-money laundering bill that could affect art dealers and NFT market players as well. The latest legislation means that art dealers may be faced with a financial regulatory burden. The Counter Act intends, so they say, to crack down on shell companies, fight money laundering, and prevent terrorist financing. The same old story we've all heard time and again, but all wrapped up in a nice, cozy package. Pay your taxes. Prior to the Counter Act, of course, the 2018 Illicit Act and Antiquities Traffic and Prevention Act suggested that the Bank Secrecy Act, BSA, be applied to the art market in order to stop money laundering. Art dealers would be required to report transactions exceeding $10,000. Now, will the NFT market also be subject to this? It's coming. It's coming. US dealers are justifiably concerned that AML, anti-money laundering legislation, will give the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network authority to regulate the art and antiquities trade in the USA. And of course, what happens in the USA filters out around the world, as we all know. Meanwhile, in the UK, January 2020, the Money Laundering and Terrorist Finance Regulations 2019 Act came into force. Pay your taxes again. Regulation 29 and transport the EU's fifth anti-money laundering directive, 5AMLD for short, into national law and brought art market participants within the regulated sector for anti-money laundering purposes. Again, are NFT sellers art dealers, and will it apply? It will, sooner or later, I believe. I mean, for now, it includes art dealers, auction houses, intermediaries, and free ports. And it stands to reason that our NFT market participants will also apply. At its core, the Regulation 2019 require art market participants to carry out due diligence on their customers and transactions to prevent criminals from using art as a vehicle to launder money or pay your taxes, depending on what way you look at it. While conducting due diligence, you must ensure there's no conflict of interests for the parties involved, and the transaction is properly documented. We need to understand the type, purpose, and structure of a transaction, and I believe that the same in the future will apply to NFTs. And for example, if a deal is unusually complex, or if the purchase price is artificially low or inflated, there's something not wrong. Some NFT scams recently popped up where this would apply, and private NFT deals are now ongoing, a secondary market in NFTs, much like the physical art market. As an artist or reseller, you should consider the source of funds for the transaction. Because again, you don't want to get yourself roped into money laundering or sanctions. And parties who sell at an artificially lower inflated prices, or who suggest proceeds be paid to a third party, or are unwilling to provide adequate proof of ownership, or are evasive and reluctant to provide adequate information on any aspects of the transaction, physical art or NFT, then avoid it. It's simple. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. The NFT market is primed, as we all know, for explosive growth in what is now being referred to as the next gold rush. It's poised to change the way we do business, the way we buy and sell products and services, and even how we identify ourselves. So that's the future of non-fungible token technology. Innovative technologies and platforms such as Ethereum, ID Please, Dragon Chain, and CryptoKitties, we all know who they are, have presented the opportunity to get into this revolutionary technology for family offices and ultra-high net worth individuals while it's still in the relatively early stages. We now see a future where art galleries, museums, trademark offices, governmental departments, all types of IP will be utilizing non-fungible token technology. So where are we going? NFT Solutions is a startup, and we're following in the footsteps of NFT Investment PLC, which floated in London on the Aquis Exchange recently. While this company is specifically related to NFT art, we're at NFT Solution are casting the net wider. We have been developing our startup business model to address many of the issues that NFTs pose to buyers and sellers alike, or the issues that we've just brought up. At present, NFT Solutions advise family offices and ultra-high net worth individuals on non-fungible token products and services when diversifying their portfolios to include crypto products, not just NFTs, but all crypto products. The NFT web solution web interface is coming, and it's a safe environment for private buyers and sellers of NFT and the secondary market for the most part, and NFT market participants. Caveat emptor again, buyer beware. We can summarize this with a few short questions. If you're buying or selling, who is the artist? Does he or she really exist? Do they have full title to the NFT being sold or resold? What rights have you as a buyer? Part IP or full IP? Who is valuing the NFT product? Who is authenticating the NFT product? When is regulation going to be introduced? Who is going to enforce this regulation? How much tax are you going to have to pay on a sale or a purchase? Are you complying with anti-money laundering legislation? Are you KYC compliant, or watch for sanctions? So Net Solutions, or NFT Solutions, upcoming app is in development, is titled EasyCrypt. In part, the suite of products that aid and assist with the due diligence process and address some of the issues above, and make the creation of NFTs as simple as point and click which is coming, but we're almost there. NFT Solutions is a number of other innovations in development. However, they are proprietary at this moment in time and confidential for obvious reasons. But suffice to say, we have identified many of the problems and issues for the NFT marketplace and have created a solution. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to this keynote talk. And should you need any further information, please make a note of the details. Our website is domos.uk. Our email address is info@domos.uk. And if you'd like to call, it's +44 for the UK, 730819 0819. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, TY. I just put a question. What are the benchmarks of due diligence of an NFT-backed physical art? People want to know about it.
Say this again, sorry.
What are the benchmarks of due diligence of an NFT-backed physical art?
All right. Well, look, everything with due diligence in the NFT space is new.
Okay.
Right? It's the Wild West out there. And if we're looking at due diligence in let's say the NFT space, right, we're going to also have to look at best practices. There are none. Due diligence, for the most part, there is none, except the due diligence that Domos Fine Art have been using in the last few years, which we will now apply to NFTs. I.e., I mean, everyone will have to comply with AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC in the future. So there too, when you're looking at benchmarks, that's your starting point. That's quite simple.
There's another question from the audience. What are the key elements from a due diligence perspective that an insurer who wishes to underwrite risks associated with a piece of expensive NFT artwork should look at?
It's the same thing again. It's new, right?
Yeah.
We're in new territory. Okay. I mean, when they're underwriting a product for insurance, how can they insure a product when, first of all, they don't know if the valuation is correct? Who valued it? And this is why the EasyCrypt app is coming in to say, right, okay, we're giving a benchmark guideline valuation on a specific NFT. I mean, if you take, let's say, as a rule of thumb for an insurance company, and they would say, right, okay, the artist, let's say Damien Hirst is doing an NFT, and let's say for a rule of thumb, the NFT of his specific piece of work, like let's say his painted dots, will be 15% of the value of the physical piece of art. Then the insurance company's got a rule of thumb to go by. But because it's all new and it's all fresh, no one knows. I mean, and in the real art world, there are indices and there are price guides. But when you have a buyer coming along and let's say paying 400 million for the Salvador Mundi by the Saudi prince, and be paid 400 million, 450 with fees, then you have the same with the recent sale for 66 million at Christie's. Passion buyers they just throw it right up in the air. But as a rule of thumb, for an insurance company, from an insurance company's perspective, how can you underwrite an NFT when you just simply don't know the value? You haven't got a clue. No one is doing this. No one has come forward and said, we'll do it. But we've come forward and said, yes, we're doing it.
Great piece of information. Thank you, TY.
My pleasure.
For the insights on compliance, anti-money laundering, NFT landscape, fractionalized art. So thank you for the piece of information, insights, and look forward again. Thank you.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome.